exercise authority it had at Federation. That's interesting. We can go and say they didn't have any because of clause 7, as I explained. And it says, but even if that wasn't so, there were only 7 legislative areas ever exercisable by the Australasian Council and even less by the colonies, and all 7 contained in section 51 of the Constitution. Where's local government? Where's control over your land? Doesn't exist in law. Never did, never does. No tax on your land, no levies, that's a tax. 51 subsection 2 of the Constitution says any exaction of money, for example, rates, levies, tolls, licences, etc. are a tax. They can't have it. Then it says any law in relation to tax shall deal with one subject of tax only, goods and services. 2 subjects of tax, the law is invalid. Why did we abide by it? Because Howard said, oh, you pay the GST, get rid of all the other tax. All fools did. Contracted with them by paying it. I had 2 corporations and I didn't pay a cent. I didn't do any of their documents. When I closed them in 2010, I got nothing. We're not going to close your company, that's okay. I got a big heap of bad statements, write no on the whole lot and send the whole lot to them. That's what they're getting. No, nothing get filled out. What they're entitled to get, nothing. You just have to stand up. You're sovereign, you're supreme, you tell them. Yes?
We do that, but they just flip the bird and carry on. How do we pull them up?
If I could have got the transcript from January and February last year, you would have seen it. Because I told the magistrate, there was cops in the court and a sergeant, 4 cops and a sergeant. And I said to him, you swore the unlawful oath, so you're not an officer of the Crown, you're impersonating an officer of the Crown. He said, that's your opinion. I said, no, the Constitution says that, and that's not an opinion, that's a fact of law. So you're a traitor. You're attainted of treason under section 44 of the Constitution.
Of all of that and all the laws, and it's once again on your bike and away they go.
But the difference between you and me, I've already been declared as a living, breathing man, and they cannot subject me to their genuine neutral person nonsense.
Well, we declared the sun, but it didn't make a jot.
All I can say is, I stood up to him,
Yeah.
he backpedaled, he told the council he couldn't give them the orders to remove the property off my land, and he couldn't give them an order in relation to my land. I won the case. I got Slade Brockman, he's a senator from WA, he's been there a long time. He tried to get a copy of the transcript, I wouldn't give it to him. Then I said to him, I had this, and I threw it down on the counter, and I said, that's our Constitution, I've had this piece of garbage, and which is theirs. And I said, this is your piece of crap. You sit under that, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. He dropped his pen, he couldn't even pick it up. He was shaking, and I said, if you stay in here, you're an idiot, and you're going to jail for the rest of your life. So he grabbed his books and ran out. I said, the case is dismissed, the court is closed, the whole lot's gone, finished, can't do nothing. But they'd already sold the land prior to that. They filed documents with Landgate.
But there was no certificate, right?
I've got it. And they don't get it. I've got the original one.
Exactly.
And as long as you hold that under the laws of remitter, you own it. And they can't change it. Can't.
Sorry, is this,
yes.
is this property?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Certificate of what? What certificate?
But the title to your property.
Property, that's it.
Yes, under the laws of remitter, he who holds the original title owns the land.
So it depends on what the original title looks like.
It's got a royal identifier on it. It's a certificate of title. It's
doesn't,
document of ownership. That's what it is.
So can you get a proper title?
You can force them to. Good luck with it.
Yeah.
Lots of people have tried.
Yeah, that's
With our current corporate jokes called courts,
Exactly. So how do
you have a
find
problem.
if you have
I got mine when I did it because I wouldn't pay the money until I handed over the
Well, I'll
title.
be
So I
in the
got
same boat if ever I buy a new property, but right now we're all a bit stuffed if we can't produce one of these titles.
yes, but did you pay your property off?
Yeah.
At the end of there, did they give you the original title?
Well, they gave me the title that exists for
No,
that.
they did not.
No,
I'm asking you
I
a
don't-
question.
that's
If
just-
they didn't give you the one with the royal identifier on, they did not give you the title. Therefore, they breached the contract. You can then if you got the money, and if you get that young lady in Victoria, that lawyer, and to help you, you can actually sue the bank in the federal court for breach of contract, get all the money you paid back again, because you never got what you paid for.
I didn't.
You didn't.
I'd like to see that.
You didn't get it. Yeah, it'll be a hell of a fight.
Yeah, all right.
But at the end of the day, you can win. The law's on your side. They're going to allow you to do it. But when you go to Landgate, yes,
Sorry, is there a difference between the certificate of title and the original title? They're not the same thing, they're two different things.
well, some of them say certificate of title, they're issued by the governor, so they are. The governor is the only one can issue titles. If you go back before Federation
It's got to
in
have
this
the governor's
state,
signature on it.
beg your pardon?
It's got to have the governor's signature on it, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Either that or Commissioner Cunningham signs it and the governor signs under it prior to Federation. Now, if you read the annotated constitution, it explains how the governor of Western Australia appointed Commissioner Cunningham to do all the paperwork. He just signed off on it. So unless the governor signs off on it, there's no transaction. It can't be because it's transferring from the Crown to you. The Parliament's not the Crown.
I'll have a look at it when I get home.
Yeah. Quite often on my videos, I actually hold the original
Yeah,
title
that's
up to a
fine.
friend's property.
That's how I noticed mine were the
I
same.
hide mine away because they're not going to get it. They can't. They don't know I've got it or where it. They know I've got it, but they don't know where it is, and they're not getting it because I'll come to that in a second because it's pretty involved what I did to get at it. But your title must be issued under the Crown. It's not the title. Now Landgate now will inform you. You don't hold your land in fee simple. You have every issue of ownership except you don't own it. The Crown still owns it. And they're the Crown. But that's the Queen of Australia, that Crown. The Bush took. Yeah. The one created in 1973.
Wayne, just out of interest, I've been following a guy in New Zealand and he's explaining that we are actually the Crown. This up here is the Crown, the rest of it's the corporate body. And he's explaining, because all the acts and statutes, they have the Crown written into them, and he says you have to take ownership of that. That is you.
Well, that's all right if you're smoking the top pipes. Because I tell you now, straight out, the Crown is God, the Queen is God's representative, and we are the Commonwealth, we the people. And by way of the common law, you can become the sons of God, but not the way they're talking. And I'm not going to get in that debate because they say sons and daughters. No, they're talking about sons, but they're not talking about it in physical, they're talking about it in spiritual. So I'm not going to get into that debate because you can have a religious war. Right here. And I'm not going to get into that, okay?
Well, Wayne, so are you saying that the colonial acts were invalidated, like the I think the Police Act 1812, or?
No, none of the colonial laws are invalidated. They continue under Clause 5, subject to the Constitution.
Right.
Because a law passed by a lawful parliament that complies with the Constitution binds the Crown to a law made pursuant to our Constitution. Because we're sovereign and supreme.
But the WA Police Act under a corporation.
WA Police Act is an imperial act under the Statute of Monopolies. And it's 1864. And in there, section 12 says every police officer is an independent law enforcement officer employed by the state of Western Australia. We employ them. They sit under the authority of the government to arrest the parliament when the parliament gets out of line. That's their job. Doesn't matter what they want to tell you. But if you notice, they got rid of all the main senior police. They boarded them out and give them early retirement and kept all the new ones. As they bring in new recruits, they do a psych test. Are you going to be aggressive and that with dealing with the public? They don't want people who will deal with the public in common law. They want them to stand over them and dictate what they're going to do. That's why they're giving them black uniforms with the black Australia flag and all the rest of the junk. It's all invalid. It's all treason. Anything else? Yes.
Most of us are legalised and monetarised for our birth certificates and our driver's licence, etc. Can we still claim our sovereignty? Can we still act as sovereign with all of those things, or do we have to give all of those things up and go through the sovereignty process?
Your legal fiction
Yeah.
accepted
Yeah.
the driver's licence, birth certificate,
Yeah.
and everything else. Your living, breathing body never did.
Yeah.
Your parents were living, breathing people. They created your birth certificate in the two given names. Mine is Wayne Kenneth. My surname and family name or clan name is Glew.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. You have to declare you're a living, breathing man or woman.
So you do.
We do all legal documents, so and so and so and so man, so and so and so and so woman. Yes.
I just wanted to make a point of distinguishing. It's often said, he who distinguishes well learns well. Words are very important. You've got to be careful what words
Absolutely,
you use.
yeah.
We had this brief argument probably a good decade ago in Northbridge when you presented at Paws Society
Yep.
there. I didn't have a chance to follow up with you.
Off Sterling Street there.
Yes, after nearly 30 years in the entertainment industry, you know that a person is a persona. It
Yes.
is what a living, breathing soul on stage plays and acts.
Yeah.
So, to answer the other lady's name and yours, to distinguish, when a judge asks, who are you, the word you is plural.
Yeah.
Yep.
You the man, you the people.
Yep.
All right? You must distinguish that question.
That's
And
correct.
the best way I've found to do that is get the original document when you were born, your certificate of live birth, because tragically some children are stillborn. They're dead entities.
Yep.
Now, I don't wish to offend anybody with that, but that is a
Yeah.
simple medical fact. All right? So that original document is what the corporation
Are you
called
talking-
the Crown can now create a document called a birth certificate.
So are you talking about the RG9, the 27 and the printout?
So, again, start the argument where the argument starts. You are not the token on the Monopoly board game. The rules and regulations, statutes and legislation, they're not laws, they apply to your token. Your token is the equivalent of your birth certificate.
Mhm.
It's proper to you, that's what property means, proper TY, proper to you. No one else can use it, but you can decide when you put your employee badge on or off, etc. So these, it's crucial, especially when you go into any court proceeding.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the judge, the magistrate, whatever, will ask you to identify yourself, and that's all you need.
You're 100% correct. That's what you've got to also
They're
take on.
gonna push all of the birth
Of course they
certificate
are.
language
Yeah.
onto you, all right?
That's correct.
You need to know how to shield yourself from that, and the best thing to do is to use their documents, all right? That single original document says you're a living soul. You're like a tree or a horse, you know, you can't, this is crucial and it takes a little bit more to explain, but really it is
I'll explain it.
breathtakingly simple.
No.
To identify yourself, this is the avenue you have to, you're not the token on the Monopoly board game.
Yep.
You're the living, breathing soul who uses the token as your property. You know, all these, you see all these sites and these things of people that want to get rid of their name and all this sort of thing. They're given to you. They are not you, as you said.
You gift
So
it to
that's,
you, yeah.
they're
By your
gifted
parents.
to you, all right? And so
Yeah.
it's your property to use when you say.
Yep.
No one can enforce you into being something you're not.
But
Right.
can you
That's the
get
whole.
hold of your original birth certificate when they only
Okay.
give you copies?
Okay. Birth, deaths, and marriages in every state. You just write to. They're going to fight your tooth and nail because they've only given me the front page of the document. The back of it is the, as we know, the
And the
it's got the
printout.
trading numbers, etc., of the birth certificate and all this sort of thing. That's,
Sounds like Wayne hasn't had to do that.
well, I would suggest that most people that go into this, like I said, it's crucial to always start an argument where the argument starts. It's no point building a house if you don't know the strength of your foundation.
Everything he said is correct. There is a way to step straight out. I was born in 1948. I don't have a birth certificate in capitals Yes.
So that we stay on that point.
Yep.
You can get the information also through freedom of information, straight through the hospital. You can
Yeah.
actually achieve that sometimes too. So there is different ways, first test of marriages, but freedom of information through the hospital as well. You can get a form there and apply for it that way. I've got it.
Yeah, the hospital records for me don't exist. That was
It
all
is
now
one of
all the
the-
hospitals gone.
The reasons that they don't like home births, natural births,
Yeah.
because they need to shove the paperwork under your nose straight away,
Yeah.
so that you're
Also want to
registering.
shove a vaccine with you.
Not, yes, so they want you to register, which a registry gives certificate of ownership to the registering party. You want to call it a record, and so everything you do is.
So if you want to get it in Western Australia, it's really easy. Just walk into birth, deaths and marriages,
Yes.
get their form, black textbook across the top, birth registration statement, that's the new legislation. If you're born before, under the 66, it's birth information paper, and they'll just charge you $40-something and you get it straight away. They're pretty good like that.
Yes.
So it's no mystery, they'll just give it straight out.
Exactly. Do your own due diligence, but I can't oversell it, I can't overstate it, how important it is to distinguish yourself, and the best way to do that in any court proceedings is with your documents before you go into court. You don't need to say anything in court. You've got your documents presented, and they're their documents as well, so they can't argue with this.
I don't argue with them, and I'll explain why I don't do things the way you said. I know what you said is correct in their system. I don't work in their system and never have. I was born in 1948, 4 years before they issued birth certificates. I have a notification of birth. Everything in relation to me is handwritten, upper and lower case.
Yes.
Now, what they did when they produced 1952 birth certificates, they put your name in capital letters. Now, when Gough Whitlam signed the Unidroit Treaty, he cemented into place Pig Latin, which is your name in capital letters. Under that, they use legalese, which is what you're talking about. You go round and round in circles, but when you go to your constitution, the onus of proof is on them. You go in there and you say, my name is Wayne Kenneth Glew, I'm a living, breathing man. You just shot everything they got to pieces. They then are responsible to prove that that's not you, and they can't. That's why it is a simpler way to do it. I attacked it that way. I mean, they listen to me because I get in their face with a vengeance because I've got that attitude to life. And after being in the police force and getting kicked into prosecuting for a couple of years, I got to talk to them face to face. And you get to know that they're weak-minded, majority of them are weak-minded weasels hiding behind a facade of so-called authority. You've got to break that authority, exactly how you said, by breaking down their legal system. But the problem is, when we all walk into courts now, we walk in under as gender-neutral persons under the Corporations Act. And I'll tell you how far it goes. You buy a block of land, you think you own it. It goes to the companies I had up earlier. They actually own it. You're paying it off, it's going to them. Because you can never own it. So the real estate agent and everybody who deals with the land who says they've sold you the property is lying to you. They committed a fraud. You never bought it. You live on that land in a fictitious company in the District of Columbia in America. You live there. You reside on your property here. Local government was created for two reasons. Control your land, and they haven't got that right under our constitution. And the second reason was to collect the rent off you for you residing on your land here. Now, hang on just one sec. When you pay your mortgage off, they've got their asset. They've been borrowing money against it all these years. You have no ownership whatsoever. And I'm not going to get into securitisation because I know where it all goes, the percentages and everything else. And I don't want to confuse people with all that part of mortgages. We've actually broke a mortgage about 8 or 9 years ago, and the bank walked out of the court because if they stayed there, they were going to lose mortgages to the tune of trillions. We did them for $9 million by revoking the enduring power of attorney. You can no longer do that. It's an order of revocation, which no longer is available. We tried it once, the judge turned to the bank and said, get out of our court before you are sorry that you ever came to this court today, and they did, just wipe the mortgage, because they can't enforce it. You sign the enduring power of attorney, no one else does. You're giving them the authority to do whatever they like. Yes?
So even if you paid your house outright and you didn't have a mortgage and you received some deeds, are you still saying that those deeds aren't legit?
Because they are Torrens titles. Torrens title means you own everything except the Crown still owns it. That was from Governor Torrens in Tasmania. He created that years ago.
South Australia.
And they named a river in relation to him. It's the Torrens River. You go there in summer, it looks like what's in his brain. Green, slimy water. There's nothing of any real value. I always use that analogy because I can't stand what they're doing. You pay your land off, but you never ever own it. How does that work? But they were very cunning. You purchased your land as a proprietor in fee simple. They then changed it to tenants in common or joint tenants in an estate in fee simple. Then when they brought in the Torrens title, you became a tenant in common or joint tenant on an estate in fee simple. On a letter, you don't own it. Simple as that. That's how they did it. Now, if you go into Figo versus the Northern Territory, 1998, Justice Kirby made it very, very clear what fee simple means. It alienates the land from the Crown, totally. If it's alienated from the Crown, the only authority to tax your land is the Crown. How can they tax it? So they just ignore it. They created Torrens title and said you don't own it. You own it, but you don't. Double Dutch.
Yeah.
Legalese, absolutely.
Yeah, you have the use of it.
Yeah, use of it. Until they decide they want to take a big chunk to put a road through or build an oval, and they say you're not getting any compensation for it. Because there's no owners to do it. Yes?
I know someone in 2J that's had that problem, but how do we get rid of the local governments?
So it should.
Apart from shooting
So it should.
In the face.
They love to hate. But, I mean, we've literally got rid of them lawfully. But they're not in the state being us. They're in the state being the company. And when you look at that, we've got to break the back of the cabal in America, which Trump's doing. Everyone says Trump's a mongrel. No, Trump's breaking the back of the cabal. Whether it's good for them or not, who cares? It gets rid of our problem. When that's broken, local government, as we know, is gone. Local government is in your constitution.
Not that one though.
Not that one, yes, you're right. Page 936, the 8th line down. The states,
It's states, exactly.
being us, have the right to legislate in relation to municipal authorities, which is what councils are supposed to be, as a public utility, and local government, and pass bylaws, which is your state parliament, and your state laws. That is your local government. But the Labor Party has always had it in their platform. I go back to them, but the whole lot of them are involved. It's not just Labor, it's Liberal, Labor, National Greens. They're all in bed together, different colour, same outlook. Thieving, lying, traitors, and a few other things. I get to call them now and again. But you have to understand, they, by stealth, have systematically changed everything and taken everything you got. And people just bend over and say, just give us an I don't care.
They're so ferocious. That
No, they're sub-sewer maggots. That's what they are, because no one can get any lower than
Harry
them.
was one.
And this, I always call this mucus constitution put in place in 2014 by the political parties. It contains our constitution 1 to 128, but the annotations are all changed, given the Parliament's supremacy and sovereignty against our constitution, against Hansard against every single law, and not I'm not talking about acts and statutes, against every single imperial law. So it's blatant treason against the Crown. How did they do it? Got rid of the Crown, created the Queen of Australia under the Royal Styles and Titles Act. You go on the Statute of Westminster, which they promote in this book. Statute of Westminster Adoption Act, 1942. Our Constitution says you cannot make retrospective legislation. They did. They introduced it in 1942 in the war. That was John Curtin. He died a few months later. Didn't die quick enough, unfortunately, but he did die. Good riddance. The issue was then, they backdated it to 1932, then they go to the Act. But what people don't realise, and I discovered a couple of years ago, is Western Australian Constitution. When Queen Victoria put it in place with a letters patent, as she did every other single constitution in this country, on the 29th of October 1900, in its original form, it had no removed parts. John Forrest, being a slimy little maggot that he was, everyone reckons he was a good guy. No, he wasn't. The best thing he ever did is die of lung disease on the way back to England. But at the end of the day, when you look at what they did, they presented the Constitution at Federation for the state of Western Australia with 32 sections missing. Western Australia has never, ever been lawfully constituted. But the people voted to go into the Federation. So the only law that ever applies in this state lawfully is this. We have no acts, no statutes, no state laws, no lawful police, no lawful judges, no lawful magistrates, no lawful politicians, until the original constitution for the state of Western Australia is put in place.
Did you say you had a copy of it?
I do. I have a copy of that. I have a copy of the letters patent for the Office of the Governor, instructions to the Governor. I have a heap of documents which I've collared through the years. As soon as I can afford it, I'm going to buy a huge big printing machine and put them out for everybody to have, because you can't put them on the internet. You just can't load them up with that much stuff. But it's very, very interesting reading when you find out that that Constitution only continues subject to this. When you become conversant with this, you know they're lying.
Wait,
Yes?
I happen to know somebody who's got a printing company.
In Geraldton.
Oh,
Which one's that? You?
Too close.
Yeah, you've been fighting, haven't you? All right, we'll talk later because I've got them. They need to get out there. Can you do double side?
Make sure it's got a visual.
It's on there.
Double-sided.
Oh, shit.
Too quick.
Just crap, we just have the paper. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. Look, we will come and see you because it needs to get out there. People need to see we have a constitution. You can go to anyone in this parliament here and say, get out. None of you have been lawfully constituted.
Come on,
None.
let's do it.
We can stand up. We have to. Because if we don't, we're going to lose everything.
take a break now. Take a break now.
Yeah, it is. My thread's getting a little bit.
Yeah, great. Okay, excellent.
Turn this off.